समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Even as tensions have begun to rise between India and Pakistan in the wake of the recent terrorist attack in New Delhi, Pakistan itself seems to be descending into an ever deeper pit. Attacks by the Tehreek-e-Taliban have mounted and efforts to negotiate a peace deal have fallen apart. In this episode of Security Code, I'll try and explain why things have ended up the way they have. From the fires lit across the borderlands of the British Empire, strange rumours had begun to rise of a fakir with occult powers, which no one could crush with guns and cannon. Firearms could not hurt his followers, a military intelligence officer recorded in 1937. The fakir could turn branches bought by his followers into guns, his followers insisted, turn a few loaves of bread in a basket into enough food for an army. His divine powers could even turn bombs dropped from airplanes into shreds of paper, a prophecy that was proved when pamphlets fell from the air instead of high explosives. Last week, Khawaja Asif, Pakistan's defense minister, warned that his country's military is prepared to strike, I quote, deep inside Afghanistan. It's a sign of the pain Islamabad is suffering at the hands of Tehreek-e-Taliban jihadists who have been staging cross-border attacks that are claiming the lives of dozens of troops and police officers. Even though Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence Directorate once allied with those jihadists to defeat the Soviet Union and then discreetly worked together with them to bleed the United States, the Fakir of EP's little-known story is a reminder that the relationship has been shaped by brutal warfare, not brotherhood. Less than a week after Pakistan's independence on the 14th of August 1947, King Zahir Shah of Afghanistan challenged Pakistan's right to rule over the ethnic Pashtun communities living south of the colonial frontier, which was called the Durand Line. The next month, Kabul opposed Pakistan's admission to the United Nations. Even though there was later progress in trade negotiations, the two countries remained deadlocked on questions of autonomy for the ethnic Pashtun lands. Then, in 1949, the inevitable happened. Two Hawker Typhoon fighter bombers from the 14th Squadron of the Pakistan Air Force hit the village of Mughalgai, allegedly killing many civilians. The fire the Fakir had lit more than a decade earlier was beginning to really burn. The two countries came to the edge of war in 1949, 1955, 1960, and 1976, and it's still going on. 85 years old, Nawab Shah Jahan Khan was patriarch to a harem of dozens, to which he added at his whim. In addition, he was the master of 300 ferocious dogs reared on a diet of milk and raw meat. There were no schools or hospitals. The law was what the hundreds of armed bandits who patrolled the streets said it was. This place is really a prison, a young resident told the Italian anthropologist Fosco Mariani, who traveled through the region in 1959. There had been a rebellion in 1957, Mariani was told, but it was ruthlessly put down. To the irritation of the British, then Foreign Minister Jawaharlal Nehru argued that subsidies handed to local rulers institutionalized backwardness across the northwest frontier province. He advocated for the monies to be made available for development work instead. Local rulers, among them the small emirates of Dir, Swat and Chitral, had remained largely autonomous even during the height of the empire's powers, but had done nothing for their citizens. Fate drew Mirza Ali Khan Wazir, a Torikhail Wazir from North Waziristan, into the storm that was building up in the mountains as the empire prepared to withdraw. Educated as a pupil of the Naqib of Chaharbagh, an influential religious leader, he settled in EP. He fought against King Nadir Shah's monarchy in Afghanistan, seeing it as an illegitimate and un-Islamic entity. And he fought against the British with equal fervour. Then in 1936, the fakir found himself at the center of a crisis pitting local custom against the imperial state. In 1936, Ram Kaur, a Sikh teenager, was alleged to have eloped, her parents said kidnapped, with schoolteacher Sayyid Amir Noor Ali Shah. A local court ordered that Ram Kaur be returned to her family because she was a minor. Even as 2 British army columns were dispatched to the Khesora River to keep the peace, the fakir supporters let it be known they were retreating in fear of his spiritual powers. The case also united clans such as the Khel Wazirs, the Masoods, and the Bhittanis, all of whom saw it as a test of local tradition as against imperial law. A letter arrived at Nehru's desk in the autumn of 1937. To the leader of liberty-loving people and the distinguished head of the Indian nation, wrote the fakir, who sought to explain contemporary events to the new political movement that he had heard was growing in the plains. Islam, he wrote in that letter, believed that, I quote, every person is free in the choice of their religion. The war between us and the tyrannical government is entirely due to their unwarranted attack on our liberties and not because of a proselytizing mania, he added. That is, they were defending their rights, not seeking to convert people. The letter was remarkable for not seeking any financial aid, support, or weapons. Nehru never replied though. 11 years of peace seemed to be coming apart in Waziristan. In 1930-31, the Khudai Khidmatgar Red Shirt militia, led by Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, had come close to evicting the British from Peshawar. And from 1937, the fakir succeeded in launching a series of increasingly successful attacks on British forts and outposts, slaughtering troops patrolling the Khesora Valley, besieging an encampment at Bishik Kashkai. The campaign had soon drawn in a record 61,000 British and British Indian soldiers and was draining the exchequer of over ₹1,00,000 every day. The problem, soldier-turned-author John Masters recorded in his memoirs, was that, quote, that while he flitted and sniped, rushed and ran away, we felt as if we were using a crowbar to swat wasps. The British were doing that. Entire villages were bombed and strafed in acts of deliberate collective punishment against the families of the tribal Lashkars. The Lashkars in turn mutilated slain soldiers' bodies. Royal Indian Air Force pilots, coming increasingly under accurate small arms fire, began carrying so-called goli chits, which promised ransoms would be paid if captured pilots were not castrated. Following independence, Afghan nationalists thought the creation of an independent Pashtun state was a matter of time. The fakir had seized Datta Khel as British troops withdrew and declared it part of an independent Pashtunistan. The Afghan government dispatched officials to Tira in March 1947, advising local tribes to seek the counsel of Kabul before committing to any relationship with Pakistan. Even Nawab Shah Jahan Khan of Dir, the man with the huge harem I told you about, who had just a year earlier sent troops to fight alongside Pakistani soldiers in Kashmir, began hedging his bets. The fires of partition also threatened to overrun the Pashtun nationalist project. Muslims in the Karal region began forcibly converting their Sikh neighbors, resorting to murder in many cases. To make matters worse, tribesmen near Hazara kidnapped several non-Muslims. When British administrators recovered the hostages and imposed fines on the perpetrators, the Muslim League protested loudly. Large-scale incursions into Bajor and Swat continued, with Afghan officials whipping up support for their Pashtunistan project. At one stage, Afghanistan even proposed a confederal arrangement between Pakistan, Pashtunistan and Afghanistan. Islamabad, however, rejected the idea outright. The growing levels of violence finally led the Pakistan army to launch a major operation supporting militia like the Tochi Scouts with the Pakistan Army's 7th Division under the command of Major General Muhammad Atiq-ur-Rahman. A bitter war involving car bombs, booby traps, ambushes and relentless air attacks continued for years. In 1955, a crisis erupted again after military ruler General Yahya Khan introduced the one-unit plan, which would have significantly undermined the Pashtun heartland's autonomy. angry Afghans burned the Pakistani flags at the country's embassy in Kabul, while Peshawar residents in retaliation sacked the Afghan consulate. Fighting broke out once more in 1961 when Afghan President Daud Khan sent in irregulars to support the warlords the Mullah Dindar Khan and Mullah Malik Niaz Ali Khan. The Pakistan Air Force had to again be called in to bomb positions around Baga Nandel as well as the Lashkars massing in Bajaur, Dir and near the Khyber Pass. The countries ceased diplomatic relations with each other for over 18 months as a consequence, disrupting trade and community ties. Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, meanwhile, tried to retaliate against the Pashtunistan movement by unleashing jihadists against Kabul, like the warlord Gulbuddin Hikmatyar. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan offered Pakistan the dollars it needed to really push up the Islamist insurgency and bury ethnic nationalism once and for all, it hoped. That strategy has now backfired spectacularly. Islamabad faces terrorists far better armed, funded, and equipped than ever in the past, who display the same contempt for borders that their tribal ancestors did. Islamabad has, in past peace negotiations, shown willingness to cede some autonomy to jihadist groups. But the TTP knows it can hold out for more. The instinct to bribe and coerce instead of engaging with political leaders to build federal arrangements that could accommodate both ethnicity and rights is costing Pakistan heavily. The same fate that once looked at Pakistan in Bangladesh now confronts it on its northwest. But more disorderly, more bloody, and far less likely to yield a stable end. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm a contributing editor with ThePrint. Thank you for watching this episode of Security Code.